Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on the channel, Charles Morris. Donald J. Trump is getting pushed back into a corner, and a lot of these indictments and charges that are brought against him, it's pushing all of it. It's pushing him back into a corner, which is exactly what you want. You want Trump to be held accountable for his actions that led up to January 6th. You want him taking responsibility for what he's done to the American people with that the freedom to vote for whoever they want, and Trump was attempting to try to take that away. Not only that, but he was attempting to attack American democracy. And the people of the United States get to choose exactly who is president. The president doesn't get to decide that himself. It's the American people who decide who our leaders are and who's fit for leading, like running the country. And the reason why we have votes, or I shouldn't say the reason why we have votes, but let me just rephrase that. A president, of course, if a president wants to become the next president of the United States, they have to do something. They have to reach a certain number of votes. They're declared winner after they reach that certain number of votes. And the votes are done fair and square. They're done without any kind of, difficulty. And the numbers are fair. I've talked about how there is absolutely no kind of voter fraud. Now, there is some done to human error, but when the domain voting systems were messed with, the error was corrected. It was all done by human error, and the problem was fixed, and the elections were back to, the people's votes were back to being counted fairly. So, the voting fraud problem was fixed. And it watched us off the front line too, so like the voting fraud stuff that did end up happening due to human error, but when that human error, when that was recognized, the problem got fixed. And I read it was like a year or so from when January 6th happened that I learned about this. But voter fraud, yeah, it was done by human error, but the problem had been fixed. So, because the problem was fixed, that fixed the voter fraud problem, and by the time that when these elections happened, Joe Biden won that fair and square. There's nothing wrong with the elections at that time. There's nothing wrong with the votes being counted. And Donald Trump made up that conspiracy theory that there was something wrong with the Dominion voting systems. Like, as I said, the problem had been fixed. And Donald Trump was trying to convince us that the election was rigged for him. And that Joe Biden, who he calls Sleepy Joe, that's the nickname Donald Trump picked out for Joe Biden. He calls Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. He claims that Joe Biden cheated in the election, that the election was stolen from him. He complained about that, and that Donald J. Trump was, he was very, very eager to take his house, he was eager to actually cheat his way, no, I should say he was so anxious to actually get that seat back as being president of the United States in 2020 from a stolen election, he believes, that had been stolen from him, and he wanted to be president of the United States of America from 2020 to 2024. And as a result of the January 6th happening and that stuff, he's pretty much, not only is he damaging himself, but he's damaging his party as well. Now the Republican Party is in panic mode, kind of, because Donald J. Trump is the head of the Republican Party. So it shocked the Republican Party that he would commit the January 6th insurrection of the United States. Even Mike Pence was, he was one of the Republicans who was, he was terrified when the Trump mob marched up at Capitol Hill and was attempting to actually try to hang Mike Pence. he was terrified. And Mike Pence made a statement that any president that makes any threat to overthrow the government should not be president anymore. And I don't disagree with him on that. I actually agree with what he's saying, and Donald J. Trump has been one of the biggest threats to America. So, you have Donald J. Trump facing all these indictments and a bunch of other charges that all lead up to the events of January 6th. And right now, Donald Trump is being pushed back into a corner, and also because he's a narcissist, he feels like he needs to attack, lash out, bite, and do everything that he possibly can, because in his own mind, he feels like people are ready to go after him. And narcissists feel like that they have to fight back because they always think that people are out to get them. That is exactly why Donald Trump is doing just that. Now, Donald J. Trump is getting ready to attack a lot of people that are going to prosecute him, indict him, that stuff. And I believe, I don't want to be exaggerating this, he's getting ready to actually form like some kind of a violent Trump mob that he's preparing to make like some kind of violent threat toward people, and this is pretty dangerous. But if Trump ever ends up having to go to prison, if that ever happens, then obviously, if that ever happens, when Trump is getting sent off to jail for his crimes he committed, Donald J. Trump is going to absolutely just explode in his narcissistic ways. And his brain is going to he's going to feel so upset and so feeling like that he has to do something in order to actually, he would feel like in order to prevent from going to prison, he's going to have to try to feel like he needs to push back with some kind of a resistance and bite and lash. Like, I mean, bite. I mean, that's just me. That is just me, just being sarcastic, the word bite, but he'd feel like he'd have to just lash out and fight until the very end in order to prevent himself from going to jail because of the things that he's done, but it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. He did the crimes, what he's done. He's done what he's done. His crimes leading up to January 6th is gonna be the reason that after all these indictments have been thrown at him, after all this is over, Donald J. Trump could end up being in prison for most of his lifetime, and he's gonna feel he could end up feeling a very sorry man for himself. But he may not be able to realize that because he's a narcissist. And even worse, the Republican Party is going to be shocked that the Republican Party's leader, or the head of the Republican Party, Donald J. Trump, is in prison. They're going to be like, they'd probably be like, okay, how are we going to bail this guy out? That's probably what the Republicans would do, because they want Trump. They want to do everything they can to pretty much have Trump being the head of the Republican Party no matter what. Whether he committed crimes or not, the Republican Party would want Trump to actually continue to be head of the Republican Party. But not all. Mike Pence would feel like Trump should be put in prison, and Mike Pence is a Republican. Mike Pence is a Republican. Mitt Romney is a Republican. Those two, even though they believe that the protection of democracy is important, even John McCain, even though he's dead, these kind of people would believe that protecting American democracy and people's voting rights should at least be the right thing to do. Now, other Republicans may end up disagreeing on that, but there are Republicans out there that want Trump to be the head of the Republican Party, and if he goes to prison for all the crimes he's committed up to January 6th, the Republican Party, Donald J. Trump, is going to hurt his own Republican Party. And the Republican Party could end up being, broken and mourn over Donald J. Trump going to prison. And it's not going to look good. We'll have to see. I just can't wait for the time that Donald J. Trump is going to start doing his kicking and screaming and probably At any moment right now, he may as well he might just explode as a narcissist because of all the horrible things he's done. This is Charles Morris. Have a good day. You know, there will be a time that Donald J. Trump is ready to do his kicking and screaming. I could probably just pretty much predict that this is what Donald J. Trump could end up doing because he's a narcissist. I've said that before. Trump is a narcissistic man, and that's what a narcissist would do. They would kick and scream because they don't get their own way, and they would lash out and do everything that they possibly could to attack the people that are coming after him. And everybody, at least a lot of people probably, hate the narcissistic ways of Donald J. Trump. This is Charles Morris. Have a good day. I'll see you on my next video.